This channel is not designed for entertainment or viral content. It exists for people who are actively healing, seeking clarity, or exploring the psychology behind their emotions and patterns. Every episode is carefully written and produced with emotional depth, reflection, and care. If you're here expecting casual commentary, high-energy hosts, surface-level discussions, flashy production, or entertainment-focused content, then we gently refer you to other channels offering just that. At DeepDive, we focus on quiet, deep, and intentional content to support those on a real mental health journey. If that's you, then welcome to our channel. You're in the right place.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You've heard it said, right? Maybe you've even said it yourself. When someone's struggling physically or emotionally, it's all in your head.
Yeah, it's a phrase that really minimizes things, doesn't it? It sort of suggests you should just think positive and, everything will magically be fine.
Exactly. But what if? What if the material we've been looking at points to something much deeper, a more fascinating truth? That, a thought or a feeling starts in your head, but it absolutely does not stay there.
Right.
That your whole internal world, your thoughts, your emotions, even your really deep beliefs, is constantly sending out these powerful chemical signals that go throughout your entire body.
And directly impacting your physical health, yeah. Your ability to heal, your whole recovery process.
That's exactly what this deep dive is about. We're unpacking that connection, that profound, sort of undeniable physical link between your mind and your body.
We're pulling insights from some really compelling work here, touching on the science of, it's called Psychoneuroimmunology, PNI for short.
PNI. Sound complicated.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's just the science of how your psychological state, what's going on in your head, interacts with your nervous system and, crucially, your immune system.
Okay, so our mission today is to really take the material we've gathered and pull out the most important insights. And honestly, it feels like a remarkably hopeful message.
It really is.
That your mindset isn't just this abstract thing. It's a biological force. And understanding it gently and with compassion can genuinely help your body heal, which feels so relevant for anyone navigating recovery, maybe from illness or injury or trauma.
And it's critical to say this isn't just, theory or wishful thinking. The research we're drawing on is grounded in hard science. It shows measurable physical effects on the body.
Okay, so let's get into that. How does this connection actually work? Like biologically, what's the core mechanism PNI shows us?
Well, the fundamental idea is that the mind and body are in this constant dynamic conversation. They're not separate entities. Your psychological state isn't just a feeling you have. It gets translated into physical signals.
Yeah.
And the nervous system and immune system are the main communication channels for that.
And the material we reviewed lays out that pathway pretty clearly. It starts with a thought or maybe an emotion triggering something in the brain.
Precisely. Just think about having a stressful thought, right? Maybe you're worried about something coming up or just replaying something difficult.
Yeah.
That thought isn't just abstract mental noise. It instantly activates specific, very old parts of your brain, particularly within the limbic system.
Okay.
So the amygdala, often called the brain's fear center, it lights up. And the hypothalamus, which is kind of like the command center for your stress response, it gets the signal.
Okay, so the brain's activated. What happens next? What's the next step in this chain reaction?
Well, that activation triggers a cascade. The hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland. That's a master gland right there in the brain. And then the pituitary signals the adrenal glands, which sit right on top of your kidneys. This whole pathway is famously known as the HPA axis.
Ah, the HPA axis. Hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Yeah.
The classic stress response.
That's the what.
And that's where those powerful chemicals come in.
Exactly. The adrenal glands respond by releasing stress hormones into your bloodstream. The main ones are cortisol and adrenaline. But, it's important to see them not just as stress chemicals. They're really powerful messengers designed to get your body ready for immediate action.
And these hormones, they don't just affect your energy, right? They influence all sorts of physical stuff, heart rate, breathing.
Absolutely. Digestion, too. But the sources we looked at really highlight their profound impact on inflammation levels throughout the body and also the activity of your immune cells. So if your brain perceives a threat, it doesn't matter if it's a real physical danger or chronic worry, these hormones act like the body's alarm system. They ramp up certain systems to get you ready for fight or flight, but they might also dial down others. Things like long-term repair, digestion, even robust immune surveillance against everyday bugs.
Which feels like a really critical point that came up in the sources, this contrast between the effects of chronic stress or fear versus something like hope or feeling safe.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Researchers like Glazer and Kiecolt-Glazer did some foundational work showing that chronic stress can actually measurably suppress immune function.
Suppress it, wow.
Yeah, making you more vulnerable to illness and significantly slowing down the body's healing processes, say after an injury or surgery. It's like the body is sort of perpetually stuck in emergency mode.
That makes sense from a survival perspective, I guess. Don't waste energy healing if there's immediate danger.
Right. Survival first, absolutely. But when that emergency state becomes your baseline, when the threat is constant anxiety or maybe the lingering effects of trauma, your body pays a heavy physiological price over time.
But the flip side, that's the really hopeful part. The sources also mentioned work by researchers like Segerstrom and Miller showing the opposite is true for positive states.
Exactly. States like hope, or feeling safe, experiencing connection, even just having positive expectations, these have measurable, beneficial physical effects.
Like what specifically? What kind of effects are we talking about?
Well, the research points to things like lower levels of systemic inflammation,
Okay.
more balanced and effective immune responses, quicker recovery times, even reduced symptom severity in various conditions. It's genuinely fascinating how just a shift in your internal landscape can directly alter your body's chemistry for the better.
So if chronic fear and stress kind of lock the body into that survival state,
Yeah.
it makes total sense how something like trauma could deeply impact this whole system.
This is where the source material offers a really vital and I think compassionate perspective. Trauma doesn't just leave emotional scars, it can fundamentally reshape your nervous system's baseline state.
Right.
And your associated mindset follows. But critically, it's not as a conscious choice. It's more like a brilliant, though often exhausting, survival adaptation.
That distinction feels so important. It's not a personal failing.
Absolutely not. The material describes how the nervous system, post-trauma, might adopt these protective mindsets. They're strategies, not flaws.
What kind of strategies?
Things like hypervigilance, constantly scanning for threats, even when you're objectively safe. Or a negative bias where your brain just automatically filters for danger or potential rejection. Learned helplessness can be one feeling powerless. Or internalized shame, that deep belief that something is fundamentally wrong with you, making you unworthy of safety or healing. These are actually genius survival maneuvers that emerge from really difficult circumstances.
And they keep the body stuck.
Right.
Right there in that fight, flight, or freeze mode we talked about earlier.
Precisely. They're like the psychological echo of that physical state. And as we discussed, when your body is constantly primed for danger, its capacity for healing, for long-term repair, it's just drastically reduced.
So the key insight here is...
The key insight the material emphasizes is this. Real healing, deep healing, begins when the body finally feels safe enough to downshift, to get out of survival mode and into its natural repair state.
The rest and digest state, the parasympathetic nervous system taking over.
Yes. That's the physiological state where your body can finally allocate resources to mend tissues, digest food properly, restore hormonal balance, strengthen the immune system, all the housekeeping, basically.
Right.
And this is where your mindset becomes incredibly powerful, almost like a form of internal medicine.
Mindset as medicine. I like that phrase. It's compelling. The material breaks it down into 3 core pillars: hope, belief, and meaning. Let's start with hope. It's more than just a feeling.
It does. The material frames hope as something quite tangible, physiologically speaking. Research, like from the field C.R. Snyder pioneered, suggests hopeful thinking isn't just passive wishing.
Okay.
It's an active process. It engages brain areas linked to setting goals, figuring out pathways to reach those goals, and regulating your emotions, all things that build resilience.
And what are the physical results of cultivating hope?
Well, studies show that people who cultivate hope tend to have lower levels of circulating cortisol, that major stress hormone.
Lower cortisol. Okay.
And really interestingly, they often show better immune responses, especially when they are facing significant stressors. Hope seems to act like a buffer against the negative physical impact of stress.
That's remarkable. But the material is also really clear, isn't it? That this isn't about toxic positivity, not just forcing a happy face on everything.
Crucially not, no. For healing, especially when you're navigating trauma, hope needs to be grounded.
Yeah.
It needs to be realistic, embodied. It's not about denying the pain or the difficulty.
Wow.
The examples given are spot on. It's saying things to yourself like, okay, healing takes time, and I'm learning to trust the process, even when it's hard. Or acknowledging, yeah, I don't feel completely safe yet, but I'm actively working on building safety. One small step, one breath at a time. It's this gentle orientation towards a possible better future, not a demand to feel perfectly fine right this second.
That feels much more achievable and more compassionate, really. Facing the reality of where you are, but still looking towards where you might go.
Okay, how about belief? The source points to the placebo effect as a prime example here.
Ah, yes, the placebo effect. It's probably the most powerful demonstration we have of the mind's direct physical influence. When someone believes the treatment will work, their body often responds with real, measurable physiological changes.
Even if the treatment itself is inert, like a sugar pill.
Exactly. We've seen this in studies on pain, Parkinson's symptoms, depression. I mean, the work by Fabrizio Benedetti and others is extensive here.
So belief isn't just psychological, it literally changes your body chemistry. It really seems to. The expectation of healing or relief appears to trigger the body's own internal pharmacy, so to speak.
How so?
The sources mention the release of endogenous opioids, your body's natural painkillers, or dopamine, which is linked to motivation, reward, well-being. This is a point, though, that sometimes gets misunderstood, right?
Yeah, people hear placebo and think,
oh, so my pain wasn't real then, or I just imagined it.
yes. But the material tackles that directly. It's not saying your pain or illness is imagined.
Absolutely not. Pain is real. Illness is real. What the science suggests is that your belief system, your expectations, can powerfully support your body's own incredible capacity for self-regulation and healing.
This is about harnessing internal resources.
Exactly, not dismissing the external reality. Your belief acts like a biological signal that empowers the body's own healing mechanisms.
That's fascinating. Okay, the third pillar mentioned is meaning. The sources bring up Viktor Frankl finding meaning even in the Holocaust. Such a powerful testament.
A deeply moving example, yes. Frankl's work really highlighted that even in the most horrific circumstances, finding some kind of meaning or purpose could be a path not just to psychological survival, but maybe physical resilience, too.
And now modern neuroscience is catching up, providing the biology behind that.
It seems so. The material notes that feeling your life has purpose or meaning, or even finding meaning within your struggles, is associated with lower systemic inflammation.
Lower inflammation again.
Yes. And it's linked to more robust, balanced immune function. And it seems to reduce the overall wear and tear on the body, what scientists call allostatic load. That's the accumulated stress on your systems from being chronically activated.
So finding meaning isn't just some philosophical exercise. It has tangible, protective, physical effects.
Precisely. It looks like connecting with purpose, even when you're in pain or healing, helps to soften that primitive fear response we talked about earlier. And when that fear softens, even a little, it allows the body to shift more towards that healing chemistry. It's not about being grateful for the suffering, but finding a narrative or a reason that helps you transcend the immediate pain.
This is all incredibly compelling and, frankly, very empowering. But the big question is always, okay, how do you actually do this? How do you cultivate hope and belief and meaning, especially if your body and mind feel stuck in that survival mode from trauma?
Right, and that's where the material offers some really practical, actionable tools. It frames these practices not as quick fixes, but as gentle ways to sort of invite your body back into a state where healing is actually possible.
Okay, let's walk through some of them. First up, daily micro-reframes.
Yeah, and this isn't about forcing yourself to believe, aggressive positive affirmations that feel totally fake.
Right.
It's about gentle reappraisal.
Yeah.
It's noticing a really negative, maybe all or nothing thought like, I'm completely broken, I'll never heal, and finding a slightly softer, perhaps more accurate version. Like, okay, I'm experiencing some significant challenges right now, and I am taking steps towards healing, even if they're small ones. The why behind this, according to the sources, is that this process helps shift brain activity away from those emotional centers stuck on repeat towards the prefrontal cortex. That's the part involved in rational thought, perspective-taking, regulation.
And the tip about writing it down, why is that helpful?
Well, writing it down seems to reinforce the neural pathways for this more regulated, slightly more hopeful thinking. Doing it consistently, maybe just jotting one down at the end of the day, helps train your brain to look for evidence of progress or possibility instead of just confirming the old negative bias.
Okay, that makes sense. Next, safety-first mindfulness. I really appreciated the emphasis the sources put on a trauma-informed approach here.
Oh, it's essential. For many people, especially trauma survivors, focusing inward on bodily sensations like in some traditional mindfulness practices can actually be triggering.
Because the body itself holds the trauma response.
Exactly. So the safety-first approach acknowledges this. It prioritizes establishing cues of external safety first before turning inward.
So focusing on physical sensations that actually feel safe, grounding.
Yes. It could be simple things like the feeling of your feet on the floor or your back against the chair, maybe the texture of your sleeve, or gently placing a hand on your chest or arm.
Okay.
It could involve gentle movement too, like rocking slightly, or focusing outward, noticing sights or sounds around you in the present moment. Once you feel a little more grounded, a little safer, then you might introduce very short periods of focusing on the breath or other internal sensations, but always being ready to return to those external anchors if you feel overwhelmed.
And the science supports this.
Yeah, research, including work by Creswell and others, shows that even brief moments, the sources suggest even just 60 seconds of cultivating this kind of regulated presence can reduce cortisol and calm inflammatory pathways.
Wow, just 60 seconds can make a difference. That feels really accessible. Okay, third tool. Healing imagery and visualization.
Right. This one taps into that powerful mind-body connection by using the brain's ability to respond to vividly imagined experiences, almost as if they were actually happening.
So like imagining a safe place.
Exactly that. You find a comfortable spot, maybe close your eyes, and invite your mind to create or recall a place where you feel completely calm, safe, and peaceful. The key is really engaging all your senses in the visualization.
All senses. Yeah.
What do you see there? What sounds do you hear? What does the air feel like on your skin? Are there any smells? The more sensory detail you can bring in, the more real and effective it feels to your brain and body.
And what's the physical benefit of doing that?
It's a really powerful way to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest state we keep coming back to.
Okay.
This can lead to measurable changes, like a decrease in heart rate, a softening of muscle tension, maybe improved digestion, better support for immune function. Essentially, it's signaling to your body, it's safe now. You can shift into repair mode.
Incredible how visualization can translate into actual physical change. Okay, the fourth tool mentioned is journaling with compassion.
Journaling is a classic, right? Great for processing thoughts and emotions, but for people with trauma histories or those who tend to get stuck in negative loops, just free-form journaling can sometimes be overwhelming or even re-traumatizing.
Right, you can just end up spiraling.
Exactly. So the material suggests using guided prompts to make it a more supportive, contained practice.
Like the examples from the source. Things like, what does my body need today? Or what small thing brought me a moment of peace?
Precisely. Those kinds of prompts gently steer your focus towards self-care, towards noticing present moment safety or peace, or maybe exploring beliefs that could offer some comfort. This approach, as the sources highlight, supports emotional processing while also helping to reinforce a more compassionate and healing narrative about yourself and your journey, instead of just getting stuck repeating the pain story.
That makes a lot of sense. And finally, connecting with others. But the sources were specific. Connecting with people who see your strength.
Yes, this point is so critical. We are fundamentally social creatures. Safe, supportive connection is a powerful regulator for our nervous systems. It's often called co-regulation.
Oh, regulating.
Yeah. And research, including studies by Uchino and his colleagues, clearly demonstrates that positive social support is linked to lower inflammation, reduced anxiety, and better regulation of those stress hormones we talked about.
So the quality of the connection is key.
Absolutely. It's not just about being around people, it's about being with individuals who genuinely reflect your worth back to you, who validate your experiences and your progress without judgment.
People who don't rush you or try to fix you.
Exactly. Who don't bypass your pain, but just offer their steady, supportive presence. The material makes a really powerful point here. Doing this kind of mindset work is profoundly supported, it's amplified, when it's mirrored and held by others who see you not as broken, but as someone who is actively healing and inherently worthy.
This whole exploration feels so hopeful, and it gives such concrete ways to engage. But I can definitely anticipate some common misunderstandings cropping up. The material directly addresses what this mindset work is not.
Yes, and getting clear on this is crucial. First off, it is absolutely not about forcing yourself to feel positive when you genuinely don't. Authenticity is key to real healing. It's about acknowledging reality while gently cultivating possibility, not plastering on some kind of fake happiness.
And it's definitely not about blaming yourself for being ill or struggling.
Oh, 100 times no. As the material really emphasizes, your body developed these protective strategies, those mindsets, that survival mode, not because it failed you. It developed them because it was brilliantly protecting you in difficult circumstances.
Okay.
This work is about acknowledging that history and gently inviting the system to update itself now that the immediate threat might be gone. It's not about blame.
And it's not about needing to do this perfectly either.
Not at all. Goodness, no. Healing is messy. This work is a practice, not a destination of perfection. There will absolutely be days it feels easier and days it feels impossible. That's just part of being human.
So if it's not those things, what is this kind of mindset work truly inviting us towards?
The material reframes it beautifully, I think. It's about gently cultivating a mindset that's rooted in fundamental safety, in inherent worthiness, and in the possibility of trusting yourself and your body again.
Oh.
It's about softly whispering things to yourself like, I am safe enough to hope, or I am worthy of healing and rest, or maybe I am allowed to trust my instincts and my body again.
And the sources call these biological invitations to healing. That phrase really lands.
It really encapsulates the whole idea, doesn't it? Your internal state, when you cultivate it gently and consistently, sends this potent biological signal to your body's systems. It's an invitation for the healing chemistry to start flowing.
So to bring it all together then, the core message from this deep dive seems profoundly simple, yet also revolutionary. Your thoughts are physical. They don't just exist in your mind. They profoundly shape how your body functions, right down to the cellular level.
Yes. And maybe just to add that final necessary nuance from the sources, this doesn't mean you are solely responsible for every single health outcome. Of course not. Genetics, environment, life circumstances, they all play significant roles.
Right.
But you do have significantly more influence over your body's healing capacity than you've probably been taught, particularly when you use that influence gently, consistently, and really in service of building felt safety, authentic connection, and finding meaningful purpose.
Healing happens.
At the intersection of biology and belief.
That's a really powerful thought to carry forward from this. It shifts the whole perspective, doesn't it? From being a passive recipient to being an active, gentle participant in your own healing process.
It really does. And if you listening are navigating your own healing journey right now, the encouragement from the material feels incredibly compassionate. You don't have to have it all figured out. Not at all.
Just start where you are.
Exactly. Choose one tiny thing, one healing thought you can try on, one grounding breath, one brief moment of embodied hope or safety you can cultivate, and then just gently keep doing it.
Your body is listening. We really hope this deep dive has offered some new perspectives, maybe some actionable insights for you today.
Yeah, maybe take just a moment after this to reflect on what resonated most with you from our conversation. What single insight or maybe what tool feels most relevant for you right now.
And if you found this deep dive helpful, please do consider subscribing to the Deep Dive channel to catch future explorations. And, sharing this with someone else who might find this perspective valuable is one of the best ways to support their journey, and ours too.